If something could be unfathomable and entirely predictable at the same time, that was the mass shooting in Las Vegas. Entirely predictable is also a phrase that applies to so much of the politically charged reactions to the killing of 59 people by a man who lacked even the minuscule courage to face the people he intended to murder. The preceding hour of NBC Nightly News has covered the facts of the situation well. We'll endeavor to have a different type of conversation here, one guided by your questions and your comments that you have shared with us throughout the day. Our journalists are in search of answers and insight, and they will join me in turn here throughout this half hour. We'll have an update on the lone Coloradan confirmed to have been injured. He's a police officer. A family who lost a daughter in the Aurora theater shooting explains how they would like mass killers treated on TV. Sorting fact from fiction on guns and politics without debating the same old issues in the same old way. Did first responders respond differently in Las Vegas because of what was learned in Aurora? Tackling public fear and anxiety after tragedy. Your questions about how prepared local venues are, how to help tomorrow, and the very fair criticism of the media today on Next. We begin with an update on the only Coloradan confirmed to be among the 500 injured in Las Vegas. Curtis Leone is actually a detective with the Inglewood Police Department, obviously off duty at the time. His family says that he is currently in the hospital, is expected to survive his injuries. They did not provide details on that. And surely there are more connections to Colorado with hundreds injured in Las Vegas. We will share those details as their families feel comfortable. From the moment the shooter was identified, we heard from Next viewers asking why we were using Stephen Paddock's name and photo on 9 News. It's a fair question from Crystal, Robin, Chris, among others. No notoriety is the movement led by the families of the Aurora theater shooting victims. The idea is to limit the attention given to mass murderers. And as we've discussed here, it's a smart idea. It's backed up by social science research about the contagion effect. Think copycat killers. But the intention of no notoriety was never to black out the shooter's name, especially not in those crucial first hours when it's vital that a lot of people in the public see his name and his face so they can come forward if they know about him or his motives. Today, we spoke with the parents of Jessica Gowie, who died in the Aurora theater shooting, to discuss the reasoning behind no notoriety.
We know that they do this. They're going to commit suicide anyway, but they want to be famous or infamous, and they don't want to go out as an unknown, which they've been all their lives.
Once you've identified who the killer is, and once that story has been, okay, this is the killer, this is who he is, this is how old he was, this is a picture of him, then you stop. You stop. You don't need to keep showing that picture because the damage it does to those who have survived and those who are fighting for their lives is tremendous. Plus it encourages anybody else out there that's thinking, well, I want to be the next bad guy. And there are plenty of them, unfortunately. So we ask that those pictures are done away with, and then you start focusing on the survivors and the victims and telling their stories.
It is a very fair ask. We invite you to hold us accountable to our pledge to use the shooter's name and photo responsibly and to turn our focus away from him once investigators have gathered what they need about his background and motives. My colleague Chris Vanderveen, who will be here later, has offered a thoughtful explanation of this balancing act that we do as journalists to maximize information and minimize harm. You can read Chris's thoughts in the next section of 9news.com. It surprised no one here at Next that guns, gun control, and gun rights dominated the questions and comments you sent in today. William wrote with a technical observation that's important. He writes, I hope you're honest enough to point out that the weapon used was a fully auto rifle, which is not something anyone can just go buy. There's very little chance, if any, that it was legally obtained, William says, and no amount of gun laws will prevent someone determined from obtaining something like this on the black market. There you have from William a mix of fact and opinion. We want to sort the two from one another. Brandon Riddiman, our politics guy, is here to do that. There are some common talking points about guns and gun control that really seem to be strained by the facts of this shooting. Yeah. The good guy with a gun will stop a bad guy with a gun argument, and then this idea that if you ban certain types of guns, they'll no longer be an issue.
Which was the point that that viewer was raising, the idea that automatic weapons are outlawed and therefore, that would help, obviously falls apart here. They are effectively banned in the U.S., but that didn't stop them from being used in this attack. We don't have all the facts about exactly what makes of guns were used, but we do know the police found one of them that had a bump mod. It's a modification. I was looking at a video for one of these, Kyle, today. It's basically a big piece of plastic you slide over the back of the gun, and it uses the force of the recoil to push it into your finger It makes a semi-automatic weapon act like an automatic weapon.
Not expensive, not complicated.
Not terribly, no. And then on the good guy with a gun argument, that good guy in this case would have had to have been across the street inside a hotel 32 floors up. And we saw one of the guitarists at the scene who said he changed his mind on this very issue because there were people with guns in his crew. And he said there was no way they were going to be able to hit the shooter through that window all the way across the street at night. Just the facts of this case didn't work for that.
Reinforces the fact that the debate that often seems so simple in 140 characters online is not that simple at all. So when it comes to a lot of the political arguments, the predictable arguments that we heard today, we heard two voices in Colorado that broke from their respective herds nationally.
Yeah, Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper, a Democrat who's actually signed gun control into law after the 2012 Aurora Theater shooting, he's not calling for more gun laws as of this point right off the bat. He got asked about gun control this afternoon, and here's what he said.
Maybe not immediately. It certainly shouldn't be brought up as the first thing, but let's get the facts. And really understand exactly what happened, how he acquired these guns. Evidently, there were multiple guns. By at least the early accounts, and you probably have more recent information than I do, that these were, weapons of warfare. But I don't have all the facts yet.
So he's saying he wants to learn more about this specific case, while other Democrats nationally did absolutely argue for more gun control and some of the ideas we've already seen debated before, like a new version of the old federal assault weapons ban or restrictions on internet sales of ammo. And on that side, a lot of folks are blaming the NRA for a lot of things. But interestingly, the NRA didn't have a statement for us when we came asking today about this shooting. However, a Colorado voice, Dudley Brown, who heads a competing gun rights group that's pretty influential in Colorado politics, did. He said, sadly, anti-gun zealots in Washington are already clamoring to exploit the pain and suffering of the victims, calling for more of the same failed gun control policies that contribute to this kind of atrocity. This is the time for comforting the victims and coming together to support our neighbors. It is not the time to push a worn-out gun control agenda, so not shy about mixing it up, even if the NRA is trying to kind of keep quiet.
And as we have mentioned here before, any honest discussion about really making a dent on this issue has to talk about gun confiscation, because there are 300+ million guns in America. You can't just simply talk about guns going forward and not looking at guns going back, no matter which side of the debate you're on. That's a fact.
And that's a much trickier proposal, because having all those guns out there, people don't want to give them up.
All right. Brandon Ritterman, thank you. Because this shooting happened at a destination event in a destination city, there are now Americans headed back home all over the U.S. carrying firsthand accounts of what happened. We caught up with a few when they landed at DIA, including a man named Thaddeus Oliveris, who lives in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. He was at that concert with his wife.
The concert, did a 3-day event, and the last show was Jason Aldean. So we thought it was fireworks, and after the second round, we realized it was gunfire, and we all hit the deck, and after that, bullets started flying everywhere. And at that point, you could hear them whiz by your, it didn't sound very far from your head, then it was hitting the bleachers right where we were sitting. And then when he went to go switch his magazine or switch the guns, it sounds like he had multiple guns.
You've asked us to zero in on the first responders rather than the shooter. Look for the helpers, as Mr. Rogers famously said. Nancy Marshall wrote, focus on the victims, the heroes, those who are directly impacted. And that's what 9 Wants to Know investigative reporter Chris Vanderveen has done for a long time, both with the Aurora Theater shooting and now with this shooting. Chris, we were astounded by the scope of the carnage with the Aurora Theater shooting and the impact on hospitals and first responders, and then this.
Think about it this way. University Hospital took in 23 patients the night of the Aurora Theater shooting. One hospital in the Las Vegas area took in more than 100 in one night. And that's really what's going to stick with me throughout all of this, is the fact that one hospital took in 5 times the amount of people that we had here in Colorado in one night. University Hospital, large hospital, metropolitan area, they were overwhelmed. Think about what that might be for an area hospital in Las Vegas. It is overwhelming.
There was something that caught my ear this morning from a law enforcement official in Las Vegas at the press conference who said, unlike some cities, we work well with our firefighters. They teamed up with us and went in. And all of a sudden I thought, this is Chris Vanderveen's reporting about Scene Safe in Aurora and whether or not firefighters rushed in at the speed at which police wanted. And there's all this talk for years.
This reminds you of how important it is for local police departments to do that training with their fire departments to know at the end, when this type of a situation arises, will they be able to go in with the police department and feel safe doing so? Aurora reminded people that you need to feel safe in order to go in. Otherwise, they're not going in.
You've listened to scanner traffic from both. Did it seem all that different this time?
You hear a lot of the same things. You hear a lot of people being wrapped up, being put up into police cars, and that was really sort of the challenge in Aurora, and even more so in Las Vegas.
Chris, thank you so much. When Next returns, we'll talk about what local venues are proactively doing here to ensure your safety. And a police psychologist talks to us about how we can all conquer fear. We're back to address your feedback about the role of the media today following the Las Vegas shooting. Jennifer writes, I think it'd be a good start to stop regurgitating the same news over and over again. Jennifer, one thing to keep in mind is that people tune in at different times. People haven't always seen what you've seen, and if it's too much, turn it off. That's often the best thing for your mental health. Judy asks, why do reporters ask such stupid questions? Well, Judy, I can tell you as somebody who has been on the door of grieving parents when I don't want to be there and they don't want me there, that that's a terrible situation for everybody involved. And the hope is that we just show a little kindness in the end. I want to bring in the rest of the team who's been working on this today to talk about what we as the media might be doing better. Sadly, we have all had experiences covering mass shootings. Brandon?
Yeah, one thing I think we can improve, and I've seen improving, is dealing with these crazy viral things that just pop up. A good example was this morning on the Today Show when ISIS was claiming responsibility for all this. They were very careful to say no one in an official capacity in the U.S. has confirmed that. I thought that was good.
Anastasia, something that we could be doing better.
I think we should keep it victim-centric, and we should continue having a conversation about naming the shooter and doing it maybe first day, explaining why we're doing it, and then moving on.
Chris Vanderveen.
Add depth, add perspective, stop the surface level reporting, and don't present it as if there's going to be easy solutions to what I think is a magnificently difficult problem to solve.
Marshall Zellinger.
I'm guilty of this myself, giving victims a breath. Don't go rushing to them as soon as they walk out of the scene, asking them 5 minutes worth of questions. We'll get the story eventually. No need to be right there as they're coming out shirtless, covered in blood.
We appreciate your perspectives, all of you being here. And again, we still do welcome all of your questions and your concerns. Feel free to send them to us and continue this discussion. This allows us to have a more guided discussion about what is most important to you so that we can get you useful answers and hopefully foster a community conversation that, as Chris said, goes beyond the simple and gets to the useful. Thank you for being here. See you next time. We are the we in We the People.
America is the greatest country on earth for a reason, and it's the people.
We are promised not perfection, but a more perfect union.
Just growth, man. Keep pushing, keep growing.
Let's make our state in these United States more perfect today. First, establish justice, investigating what voter info is being turned over to the Trump team. Ensure domestic tranquility by tweeting each other nicely. Provide for the common defense against your neighbor who's setting off fireworks, whether you like it or not. Promote the general welfare by volunteering for decades at a red, white, and blue Colorado tradition. And secure the blessing of liberty. Does this kid look blessed or what? Let's do, ordain, and establish all that on this 4th of July edition of Next. On this day of all days, it made me sad to hear from viewers who say they're withdrawing their voter registrations, thinking that that will somehow keep President Trump's voter fraud commission from getting their information. That's the last thing that anybody needs to be doing right now, because panic has outpaced the facts on this issue. Do not believe what you see circulating online, that Colorado's only one of 3 states that's turning over this info. There are at least 20 states that are doing just what Colorado is doing, offering the Trump administration only the same public information that you or I could request and receive under open records laws. Our Marshall Zellinger looks at exactly what that means.
Let's start with some hard truths. Your vote counts, Your voter information is public record. Who you voted for will never be known. But let's focus on number 2. No, not that one, this one. Colorado Secretary of State Wayne Williams is going to turn over public information about Colorado voters. The same data that candidates and campaigns can and do request. The same data that ends up on these shady but legal websites that share yours and my voter information.
So to make it clear what will and won't be shared, here's a bit of a visual. Your driver's license number will not be shared, but info that shows up on your driver's license will, like your full name, even your address, and your birth year, but not your birth month or day.
Your political party will also be shared, as will whether or not you voted, not who you voted for. In fact, the Secretary of State's office wouldn't have that record anyway. Colorado state law even specifies what else is not public and thus won't be turned over, like your signature and your social security number, including the last 4 digits, which the Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity asked for. Sorry, PACEI, you're not getting it.
There has been a lot of discussion about the confidential voter program, Marshall. Not everybody qualifies.
No, you're signing an affidavit that says you are fearful of criminal harassment or some sort of bodily harm. And if you sign that and you're lying, you could be cited for perjury. So it's very restricted. Not everybody can have their address misidentified.
That's through county clerks, and then for domestic violence survivors, an added layer of protection in their voting records.
You're given basically a fake address, kind of like to dupe everybody in the system, but those people are the most needed of a fake address.
All right, Marshall, thank you so much. Now, political parties, we've told you, they already request this public voter information, and ballot campaigns do it as well. If someone were to run for president, say Governor John Hickenlooper, that information, of course, would be of interest to a national campaign as well. And hey, speaking of, since our governor is going to be looking for a new job in 18 months, Marshall decided to ask him without really asking him.
I'm not going to ask you if you're running for president. I know MSNBC took care of that last week, but I'm not going to ask you that. But if you were going to run for president, what is something that you would be doing that anyone sitting at home could be like, oh, the governor just did that. Yeah, he's running for president.
Well, if I was going to be running for president, the probably highest priority would be to try and do the best job I can for Colorado, right? And to make sure the programs and the initiatives that we have going on right now, that they finish strong. And so we're doing the workforce training stuff, which is, I think, some of the most exciting things I've ever been involved in. Healthcare, really, how do you control the inflation on healthcare costs? How do we look at that? And those are big, important things that you'd want to finish strong. Now, coincidentally, even if I had no interest in running for president, I would also want to finish strong. So it's hard to detect. I'm not sure what I would be doing now that I wouldn't be doing anyway.
Should I sub the word senator for president? Because I don't know that we've gotten down if you were running for senator.
It's all the same. It's all the same.
That's a fact. It is all the same. Marshall also asked the governor why he was so intent on sneaking in a trip to D.C. recently and how Medicaid might be changing in Colorado. You can see those exchanges on the next page at 9news.com. Our next question comes from a viewer named George Hanna. Why is it really illegal to swim in Denver lakes? Is it an insurance liability issue? Actually, George, it's because they're gross cesspools. Or, as the city spokesperson would like us to say, to protect the health and safety of the public. The city park's waters are often filled with runoff from our streets. There's yard chemicals, there's wastewater treatment discharge. The city doesn't want us swimming in the lakes because people could get sick. So I suppose in that way, George, it is a liability aspect. Denver Environmental Health says if you do choose to swim in the city park waters, wait 3 days after a storm, don't swallow the water, and wash your hands before eating. Saying a prayer might also be a good idea. NIWAT's 4th of July parade is not the biggest, just 5 blocks, but it was the only one in Colorado that featured a Supreme Court justice today. Neil Gorsuch came home to say hi to his old neighbors and a few protesters, and to answer a question shouted out by our photojournalist Chris Hansen.
Two highlights. One was the bagpipes, and of course the really big highlight was Neil Gorsuch was here. Who better to be here than Neil Gorsuch on Independence Day?
This is what sports mean to you.
We are so blessed of God to have a man be appointed to the justice system like him.
Yeah, Dee almost ran out of gas when she was getting here. That's how excited she was to get here.
The 4th of July in this country is the day we celebrate our freedom, so we have the freedom to speak our minds. I don't think he's actually representing the view of most Americans.
But to know that there's a guy there that's going to interpret the laws by the Constitution and not by his own personal preferences, what more could we ask for?
Little known fact, if you buy a package of illegal fireworks in Colorado, it comes with a complimentary set of dumb excuses, and you'll need them when you get caught by police or firefighters putting your neighbors in danger this weekend. South Metro Fire Rescue offered up some of the worst excuses they've ever heard.
They wanted to be the next YouTube sensation. There's a lot of things that you can buy that are still illegal.
Some of the other ones are, why are you picking on us? Or everybody else is doing them. So just because everybody else is doing something doesn't make it safe.
It's certainly a lot easier on our investigators if people fess up to the truth and just let them know what happened, rather than having to spend a lot of unnecessary time trying to dig through some facts and interview witnesses and things like that.
One of the favorite ones is, why are you ruining our holiday?
Kyle, this one's for you, because the worst excuse I got was, I want my fireworks to be just as loud as Kyle's blazer.
If anybody out there is actually saying that, shame on you, and thank you.
We don't yet have a segment called That's So Boulder, but if we did, this woman from Boulder's incredible accomplishment would have to be featured. Some like it hot. Those people are going to be very pleased this week. Please like this moose and this child. It's okay to smile, even while watching the news. Next.
So wait, you didn't celebrate the 4th of July by climbing to the tallest tree in sight to put up an American flag? That's just a thing that we do at my house and at Mesa Verde in the 1920s? It was a national park even way back when, although it would appear that federal employee safety regulations may have changed a bit. Happy Independence Day, throwback edition from Mesa Verde National Park. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a bull moose, just happy to be alive and splashing around in Columbine Lake up near Grand Lake. Diane Groth spotted him near her cabin. Fine way to spend the 4th for anybody, really. Sunshine, a day on the water, yeah, that's pure joy. You can climb Denali, the highest peak in North America, but I mean, a lot of people have climbed Denali, you know? So a woman from Boulder climbed Denali fast. She did it real fast. Katie Bono climbed the 20,310 feet in 21 hours, 6 minutes. That is a women's speed record for climbing. She was moving at almost 1,000 feet an hour. Katie says she used to be a cross-country ski racer, so she's got a pretty good gauge of how far she could push herself. Over the entire 21 hours, she only stopped for water and to fuel up on protein, eating trail mix, cheese, sausage.
It's really fun to move fast in the mountains. It's a really unique experience, and there's not a lot of places where you can be somewhere like so in the middle of the wilderness on this giant peak and be able to just like go up and down it as if you're doing a trail run. It's not like you're sprinting up there. Like relative to everybody else, you're moving fast, but you're moving slowly enough. There's definitely time to look around and enjoy the view.
It was, in fact, duct tape that you saw on Katie's face there in the summit pictures. She used it to cover up a bit of frostbite. Katie says her next mountain to climb is getting into med school.
A volunteer stepping back after more than 2 decades keeping a signature event on track. This is not exactly in the Bible, but it could have been. And Coloradans write a birthday note to a country that isn't perfect, but is our attempt at more perfect. Next.
Fourth of July is a rodeo weekend across Colorado, from Steamboat and Meeker up in the northwest, out to Greeley, east to Brush, and down to Pagosa Springs, where this young man, Thomas Worden, took in his very first rodeo, the Red Rider Roundup. By the look on Thomas's face, this will be the first of many for him. Listen, don't tell me that a kid's joy seeing a Western tradition does not belong on the news. This is a lot better use of our time and yours. Some car crash or some random crime. Just look at that kid. loving life in Colorado. Take away this state's volunteers, the people who give of themselves without asking anything in return. Take them away and you would be surprised what would grind to a halt almost immediately. Like the Greeley Stampede. James Herman has been keeping that rolling for 21 years.
I love the Greeley Stampede. I fell in love with it right off the bat volunteering. I started at the bottom of the totem pole and worked my way up. It's a big deal. I gotta take this call, sorry. Hello? Julie said she had been emailing Richard. So I think I'm gonna miss that stress. And the guy in charge of the flyover was wondering if we could try to time it to fly them over right at the end of the national anthem. We're sorting out all the stock that'll be used in tonight's rodeo. As far as being rodeo chairman, I was basically term limited. And then before that, I was the trail boss of rodeos, which is kind of the second in command. It's been a huge part of my life. My daughters are both bummed because they're not going to get as many tickets as they were getting, but my wife, she tells me we're going on vacation because for 21 years, over the 4th of July, I took my 2 weeks vacation. So we've always had to kind of fit family vacations around the Stampede. And so she says next year we're going on vacation. I'm not going too far. I got that Western blood in me and I'll still be around.
That story came to us through the lens of photojournalist Tom Cole. James was telling Tom he's sad that he's not going to be there as rodeo chairman for the 100th anniversary in 4 years, but he says he'll be there in some capacity. Stampede closes out tonight with fireworks. It's a sign that a church in Fort Collins is intent on keeping up with the times, updating its advice to all passing by. Tweet others as you would like to be tweeted. They may or may not be talking to one person in particular, but you know what? Listen, set that aside. That is solid advice for all of us. And our thanks to Claudia Farfanolo, who snapped a picture when she was in the neighborhood yesterday. If you see a sign that makes you look twice, share it with us so we can share it with Colorado. Email next@9news.com or get our attention anytime with the hashtag HeyNext. We will be crowdsourcing a birthday note to this beautiful, imperfect country of ours and the jacket you knew I'd wear tonight. Next.
It's not much more American on a birthday than a greeting card. We got one for you, America. It says happy birthday with a picture of a cow. You open it up and it says, holy cow, another birthday. Milk it for all it's worth. A cheesy card for America on this 4th of July.
I was a veteran of the United States Army.
How do you share well wishes?
And I want to especially say thanks to all my brothers and sisters that are serving today.
A birthday greeting.
Thank America for the freedom we hold so dear to our hearts.
For a country that's given you so much.
Say happy.
You can say it.
Birthday. America.
Say it with 3 words we learn early in life.
Happy birthday, America.
You can even say it.
Felicidades.
In a different language. She says happy birthday with hope for the future.
Because this is America. This is where I'm from. This is all I know.
Hope, which can have a different meaning for everyone in America.
You just told me you're on the streets. You're
yeah.
homeless. You're still thankful for America.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because people still help you in society, no matter what. I mean, just waking up, being out here another day is a blessing to me, so.
Rock says it in a different way.
Happy Born Day, America.
A wish for a country that's only getting better with age.
Like we're getting closer and closer to what America was meant to be, and even though we're having struggles, this is what it's about. Just growth, man. Keep pushing, keep growing.
So happy birthday, America, from photojournalist Mike Grady, Steve Steger, and all our new friends.
Anyone who says young people aren't patriotic has not met Aiden Morrow from Arvada. I met him 2 years ago when he came by 9 Cares Colorado Shares wearing a t-shirt reading the Constitution. I read it for the articles. The next year, Aiden showed up in a spectacular American flag jacket. And I can tell you the kid is both patriotic and generous, because he loaned it to me to close out our 4th of July edition on Next. Aiden from Arvada, you told me that you want to be president someday, and I will be proud to say that I wore a future president's jacket. here on Next. Finish with your feedback as always, and Tanya tweets to us, thanks for the voter registration info segment. Facts matter. They do matter, Tanya, especially on this issue where everybody is so super heated and partisans are pointing fingers. We'll give you the facts. We'll give you the analysis and you decide where to go from there. Jim Brown says, visiting Colorado, enjoying the program. Enjoy your stay. Kevin Proctor says, Marshall, love the guy. Yes, so do we. See you next time.